Good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you may be watching this transition. It is I, Mike Martins, bringing you another very special edition of Let's Debunk the News with our truth analyst, Evan. A couple of articles rolling around social media and other platforms. And we want to get together and actually debunk and see what Evan has to say about these articles. And he's a master at kind of debunking and kind of stripping away the lies and getting straight to the truth really quickly. So, Evan, how are you?
I'm very good. You
Merry
told
Christmas.
them how good I am at strip. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Celebrate the birth of our Lord Jesus Christ. Don't use an X, use Christmas.
Yes, and they're trying to take that away from us. I don't know if you remember the show I did last night on Mike in the Night, how they were removing the Ten Commandments from the City Hall, and they're moving the War Cross, World War I Memorial Cross, and in the United States, and taking down all the founding fathers and statues and stuff. They're doing this because when you go back to, to the founding fathers and the times when everything was basically based off Christian values, they want to remove that and say it's wrong now.
Well, that's right. There will come a time where they call good evil and evil good. I mean, they've got a statue of Baphomet up, don't they? At where is it? I believe it is California. Tends to be where all the interesting things happen. But, Church of Satan, Baphomet statue in the George Washington pose, 2 fingers pointing up, 2 fingers pointing down. Classic occult symbolism, that's fine. But anything about the past or history or anything wholesome or good, it's going to be written down for the sake of someone's feelings. They can even invent the person. It doesn't have to be a real person. They'll rip it all down, Mike. They want to replace it with something that won't work, and it never has, and never will, every time they try.
Yes, I know. It's, but at least, you got to give them the fact that they're trying. And
that's right, A for effort, Mike, A for effort.
Okay, before I kick off on any of the major articles, I don't know if you noticed this, or maybe I'm just delusional, but have you noticed after... And it was a video I made about the death of social media. But, Evan, is it just me, or did social media, YouTube, all the platforms started getting demonetized and shut down because... I believe it's because Hillary Clinton lost the presidential election against Donald Trump. After she lost, everything just got purged and shut down. Or is it just me?
I think you could say that was the event they used to start shutting things down even more. Not necessarily that she lost, but they'll use that as the excuse. Didn't matter who got in. Had Hillary Clinton got in, would have been the same story. I don't think they would have stopped their censorship program. They would have ramped it up even more with even less restrictions for their censorship policies. But you, Mike, your spurious claim that they gave you, they said, hey, this is copyrighted material. Hey, this is hate speech.
Well, no, it was copyrighted material, and it was for a video I did 3.5 years ago discussing, telling Australians not to buy in the housing market, that it's a Ponzi scheme, and that people are going to lose a lot of money if they buy now in the markets because housing prices in Sydney were skyrocketing, and I kept telling people to be careful, that there's a lot of empty homes and lots of empty homes owned by foreign investors, and people should be very careful because basically the video was about empty homes in Sydney, how it's creating an empty shell, and making the city hollow, and in return artificially driving up the prices of homes.
That's right. What's going on even today with the interest-only reinstituted. Well, it's probably they trademarked a combination of 2 of those words, Mike. Therefore, you're in trouble,
Yeah.
That's Article 13 in a nutshell. When that goes through, you're going to have a combination of 2 words going through a bot. It's not even a person. And if it's, it, us, of, the, you've already got 2 words there, and you're in trouble.
Yeah, a combination of words. Now they're starting to flag it. They may be thinking you'd be singing a song or something.
No, but it's automatic. You see, they're going to take the hands out of someone you can hold responsible and give it to a robot, aren't they? Because if they do that, then who are you going to argue to? You have to appeal to another robot. And the robots say, no, you're giving more rights to the robot than the average citizen. And then the argument, of course, is it's a private company, Mike. It's a private company. It seems to be a public utility when you're required to have a Facebook account to have certain jobs, isn't it? Seems a bit conspicuous there.
Okay, well, let's kick off our first article. This is the newest one I have. It was posted 11 minutes ago. Reuters journalists jailed in Myanmar to lodge appeal. So this is just in the news right now, and they have spent more than a year in prison. What's happening to the freedom of speech? What is happening to... It's severely deteriorating, and let's go over this. 2 Reuters journalists jailed while reporting the Rohingya crisis in Myanmar. Well, can you tell us what that is?
It's just so when they had the whole Syrian conflict, and even before that, everyone's getting sick of these Muslims causing trouble. That's basically who they are. The Rohingya are. And they're moving around. They're going between countries. Thailand doesn't want them. Vietnam doesn't want them. You know, they're being kicked out of everywhere because they behave badly, go around causing trouble. You know, not unlike the gypsies. So they got to Myanmar, and the Buddhists said, "Hey, we don't like you. Get out of our land." They were kicking them off systematically, burning each village they developed down. They just keep moving them west, back to Bangladesh and that region. And reporters are saying, "Oh, but their feelings, you know, that sort of thing."
But why would they jail journalists that were exposing this? This is crazy.
Well, the woman in power at the moment, she got, you know, big friends with Obama, lots of photos with her and Obama. Nobel Peace Prize winner for murdering people. Nothing new there, Mike.
I know.
So why are they getting jailed? Depends what they're reporting, Mike. If they were showing the fact of the matter, if they show the truth at all, reporters end up in jail. So a reporter's not allowed to actually report on the truth. They've got to have some sort of information that's controlled, and then they've got to spin it into something that's controlled in order to divide the opinion of people oceans away in order to take their freedoms away. Usually how it works, Mike. Oh no, little boy covered in dust in a bright orange ambulance in Syria. We've just got to stop Assad. Here comes some Tomahawk missiles.
Yep.
Just like that, Mike.
Okay, let's go to this one by CBC. Canadians broadcasting crap. New bill could lessen tax woes for Canadian residents with U.S. citizenship. So it's Trump's repatriation of tax. U.S. President Donald Trump displays $1.5 trillion tax overhaul package he signed a year ago, which included repatriation tax that hits thousands of Canadian residents. Thousands of Canadian residents are to pay income tax in both Canada and the United States could get some respite.
Well, I think I know what you meant, repatriation tax, right? So they're living in Florida, let's say, with Canadian plates. Therefore, they have to, if they earn money there, they have to pay the American tax in addition to whatever Canada owes. That's the a very common thing now. America's got one with Hong Kong. Americans have to pay American income tax even when they're working in Hong Kong. Australians too. That was last year. They're making these dual taxation accords where you've got to pay these ridiculous taxes to countries where you're not even working, in addition to whatever the country you're working in wants. But really an incentive, isn't it, Mike?
But this discourages business, in my opinion, for hiring Canadians or American citizens abroad.
That's right. Not necessarily. It might actually improve hiring, depends on how you look at it. You know, they're going to be more desperate to work, aren't they? Because they're going to get taxed more. Could look at it that way too. Could go either direction, Mike, depending on the work, of course. You know, it's like here at the moment, we've got a flood of South Africans, believe it or not, all in the English teaching business, of course. There's a Canadian franchise called Monkey Tree. Big scam, big pyramid scheme, ripping everybody off, as they do, teaching the children nothing. Their guarantee, of course, is we'll teach you how to read in 1 year with an asterisk. You know, what's this letter, boy? A. Look, he can read, you know, guarantee fulfilled, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And people get roped into thousands upon thousands of dollars. But these South Africans come over and they can't go back You know, they don't want to be murdered. So they're desperate to work, and they'll work for peanuts. And you see them all around here, living in little enclaves, trying to survive. Adorable.
Okay, GoFundMe Trump's border wall surpasses Humboldt's Broncos campaign. So Trump started a GoFundMe border wall, and it's raised money. Could Trump make it? I mean, it's average Americans, I guess, donating to this. Do you see them funding it through GoFundMe or no?
If it's done by defence contractors, you know how expensive they are, Mike. As soon as you get the government involved, how many extra hands do you have to grease with money before anything gets moving? On top of that, let's say they did get all the money, they still need government approval to build on government land. So whether or not they'd get that would be the next question. Doubtful.
Well, they've raised an impressive $10 million.
If you're making it out of, if you're just thinking the raw material, Mike, that would pay for a lot of it. But of course, you have to get the Halliburton type contractors in, and they've got to get their stipend off you to even look at what you're doing. You know, I could see it being like a token gesture at best, and a robbery at worst for the people who GoFundMe, because we've had a lot of Indiegogo and GoFundMe problems in recent years. A lot of people, you know, they'll put up scams, steal your money. Then you've got people who put up perfectly legitimate things that help people, and GoFundMe or Indiegogo says, nope, you're not allowed to have that. I'm refunding all that money you've been donated, and we're banning you from the site for doing the right thing. So it's not just YouTube, Mike. It's all the collusion at the top there.
Okay, I got a good one, and you're going to like this one. Yellow vest protest movement spreads to Taiwan.
Oh, that's right next to Paris, don't you know, Mike? That's right down the road. You just take a few steps and you're in Taiwan. That's how it works. Last I checked. It seems like it's one of those, like we've had over the years for a while, colour revolutions. You know, you had the orange ones in Ukraine. You had the yellow umbrella one in Hong Kong, which was a total scam, because I know the people who started that before the actual propagandists did. It's quite interesting. They were already up protesting, gathering people, and then all of a sudden, within about 10 minutes, you had supplies and trucks and all these amazing volunteers just para-dropped in to take over what they had started. They didn't want them involved at all, and they were pushed to the side immediately. What a scam that was. Yeah. They do it all the time, Mike. It does seem like it's got nothing to do with fuel tax now. I don't know if you've noticed that. Taiwanese don't really have a problem with fuel tax. What's the yellow vest about there? I wonder.
It's probably tax. It says here they gather in Taipei to demonstrate against the Taiwanese president, and yeah, they admit it is inspired by the French movement. Protesters are expected to continue on Saturday with an anti-tax demonstration, preparing to take the streets again. So they're organizing. So they're organized. So they're actually putting things together.
The best day to do it in Taiwan, just as a tip if you want to ever do a protest, Mike, is on Monday, because everything's shut down. Best day to do it. Wouldn't surprise me if they did it on the Monday. Would not surprise me. But no, there's going to be a lot of bandwagon media frenzy around yellow vests. I'd be curious to see the footage. I'm yet to see.
Yeah.
But I do know quite a number of people in Taiwan, and they think it's stupid.
Yeah.
Well, Taiwanese do quite well. I mean, they don't get paid a lot of money. But
okay, I got one. One's a really bit off topic. It's official. Humans are going to Mars. NASA has unveiled their mission. Posted today in today's news. Could we get to Mars, and did we even really go to the moon? What do you say, Evan?
We didn't go to the moon. You can't. Didn't go to Mars. You can't. The Martian rover, last time I checked, was on an island in Newfoundland. I can't remember the name of the island. Might be a sheep island. But anyway, the Martian terrain, you know, they've got the NASA vans out there. You can see it on Google Maps for some reason, you know. They've got all their stuff out there. You've got a rover and everything. People have been trying to go out there and take photos of it. Then you've got the site in Greenland, and then you've got the Nevada desert for certain other shots. And the interesting thing, if you watch the Mars rover footage, you'll notice that they add a color overlay. It's rather interesting, because you look at it when it was built in the studio or the warehouse, when they said, look, here's the Mars rover unveiled, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you see the colored lights on the left-hand side. Looks almost like a game controller. And then you look at it on Mars, and all of a sudden it's got this bright orange overlay, so the blue becomes a black, and it's an obvious color overlay there, just to make things look a bit redder.
Yes.
But to me, it doesn't make sense that everything's red on Mars. According to them, very thin atmosphere. Why would there be an orange haze around if there's such a thin atmosphere? Nothing disturbing the dust and no wind. Figure that one out, Mike. It's as if they're lying, Mike, that they usually do. Not only that, NASA in Hebrew, it means to lie. It's a good name for a space agency.
Okay. Next one. This one's right off topic again. A chart exposing how the Bilderberg Group controls the entire world. Oh my God, this chart is phenomenal. It takes up an entire wall of, let's say, like 17 feet by 13 feet high, and is an enormous chart that shows the entire Bilderberg platform, how it springs out into different corporations, and how those corporations break out into shale companies, and those shale companies breaking out into conglomerates, and then all kinds of stuff.
That's right. They never broke those monopolies up. All they did and all they do is consolidate them. No surprise there, Mike. But the Bilderberg Group is an offshoot of another group. And I mean, it's like with the media, there's only, it was 7, and then Time Warner and one other, and Disney swallowed another one. So that would be 5. We're almost down to 1. I don't know if you ever watched the film Rollerball, Mike, but you have the elites in one of the scenes in the middle of the film where the children are blowing each other up with the ray gun, and they're talking about, you control this aspect of society all over the world, you control that aspect of society. They had it in the film Network as well. A college of corporations inexorably determined by the immutable bylaws of business, he said in that film. So,
it's very, very, very bizarre how a small group of people control pretty much every aspects of our lives.
That is, because other people sell out to them for a little bit of power, petty power, very, very petty power. They might get a Ferrari, for instance, or they might get a fancy new suit, or they might get a yellow umbrella or a yellow vest and a free cup of coffee, and you've sold out.
Okay. Okay. I got another one here, and it's a good one. The rollout, again, 5G is back in the news. The rollout of 5G wireless service is a massive health experiment. Public health experts warn as cell companies install 800,000 towers across the United States. And this is coming from the Daily Mail, so this is like fake news actually telling us that this is a problem. What's going on?
Well, like I said, I think, 3 shows ago, Mike, not including the handheld junkie show you did, but all those 4G towers they're putting up were already 5G ready, and they had the transmitters ready to go. All they have to do essentially is open the bandwidth a bit more, and you've got 5G. So basically what they're saying is microwave radiation in increasing quantities is bad for you, and it most certainly is. I mean, it won't kill you unless it's a sudden shock. That's why they introduce these things gradually. Imagine if in the 1920s they stuck a 5G tower in the middle of town. People would be dying from shock, They wouldn't know what's going on. Yeah. But they always do the little creep, don't they? Creep. 3G to 4G, no difference at all in technology. 5G to 4G, no difference at all in technology. Just a brand name. But they're right about those towers, Mike. Sticking them right next to schools, sticking them in your backyard. If you get paid a little stipend to compromise your health and kill everything around you. Fantastic idea,
Okay.
And like you said, Mike, you had a power cut in Merritt, and all of a sudden you felt really relaxed. I remember
Yeah,
that happened. You
when we
go
had a
out
power
bush somewhere,
collapse.
Mike.
Yeah, it was absolute tranquility. No, there was no movement. It was almost like it was utter peace and quiet.
That's right, no agitation, you see. I mean, there might be some radio waves, but that would be about it, if you're lucky. But compared to before, when all the towers are switched on and transmitting, it's a big difference, massive difference.
Okay, next. Market meltdown overshadowed by other news. I'm not going to really read this article, but my question to you is, what are they hiding? What's really happening in the background behind this market meltdown, Evan? What do you think is happening?
Depends how high you want to go, Mike. I mean, they own the money, don't they? These people, these private banks. So if you want to go to that level, then it's inconsequential what the markets are doing because they control the money that's in the market. So if you want to look at it that high, or you want to go a bit lower, depends where you want to look at it from, Mike. Because essentially, the market can be manipulated at a whim. The
Well,
governments are
what
not
are they
answerable
hiding?
to
But why are they
people.
hiding? What are they hiding behind the markets? They've got the market full front and center, full stop. But what's behind the market? Are we brewing in a war? Is the yellow vest movement out of control and they're having a hard time keeping their
Ah, I see what you mean, Mike. Okay. Yeah. So what are the implications of this market problem? Well, with this yellow vest thing, I think they're going to use it. I don't know about the one in Taiwan, but they're trying to concentrate it in Europe, aren't they?
Mhm.
And they're trying to make it into a big thing, and the media won't shut up about it, When the media doesn't shut up about something, it's usually a big scam. So what I'm suggesting with the yellow vest movement, because it's situated in the second biggest contributor to the EU, grinding it to a halt according to the media, they might say, finally, this is the impetus. We obviously need a European army, the thing they've been talking about, increasingly so, especially after Trump pulled out of funding things in recent years. So it might be the impetus to get the European army. Therefore, Brexit won't happen, and you'll get the military enforcement by foreign powers in your local countries. Poland will have an army in there. Anyone who resists will have an army in there. The boot will come down, I believe, for the sake of unity, of course.
Yeah, of
When,
course.
well, the Bible quote, Mike, when a man comes along and says, I will give you peace and unity, run the other way.
Hmm.
He's not wrong.
Okay, I got one here, and this is a bizarre one.
Mm.
It's a YouTube Fox News. I got open here for Fox News on YouTube, and it says, and this story's legit. This story's been going around, and I just can't believe it. Witches claim Trump using the phrase "witch hunt" is insulting to their community, and they're going to put a hex on him.
Oh, well, normally people sue instead of putting hexes on people. I'm surprised they didn't sue him. Like that gentleman Stormy Daniels did. And her court case money costs more, costs more than the settlement amount. Quite funny. But no, everyone's got rights except you, Mike. You've got to remember that,
Mm-hmm.
The average white Christian male or a person who has common sense, person doing anything true or right, you are the enemy of the society, unfortunately. Because who's running the society if you look at the media? Media doesn't represent you. Government doesn't represent you. You say, I'm going to appeal the law. And they say, well, these extenuating circumstances, these witches feel bad. Therefore, we are going to repeal whatever claim you have and punish you instead of them. It sounds like media spin to me, Mike, not unlike China creating an artificial sun. There's a
Yes,
lot of, what would you call it, Mike? Sensationalist journalism, I suppose.
I guess. Yeah. Okay, Syria conflict. U.S. officially withdraws troops after ISIS defeat. Before you say anything, Donald Trump did promise one of his campaign promises that he will get the United States out of the Middle East. So he's just I guess complying to one of his promises, right?
Well, I don't know. The Middle East does not necessarily encompass just Syria, does it, Mike? But they will leave their private contractors like Blackwater and the equivalent thereof, because they keep changing their name, of course, in the area to keep it nice and destabilized. I mean, they're still in Afghanistan, assisting, in quotation marks, the Afghani government run by an oil executive. Oh, it was. I think they've just had an election, in fact. Probably another oil executive got in, usually how it works in that region of the world. But if he's taken troops out of Syria after it's been reduced to rubble, it seems like that's just opening the door for the Greater Israel project. Oh, look, there's no longer an army there. We can, reduce the place to even finer pieces of rubble. That's what it would look like to me.
So you think it's wrong or right for the United States to leave this region?
At this stage, it's not a very good idea, because Turkey wants a piece of it, Israel wants a piece of it. If Israel wants a piece of it, Lebanon will want a piece of it. I mean, they've probably already agreed to such a thing. Most of this is just posturing and puppetry. So, if they leave and Russia's left, who's left?
I see what you're saying.
I mean, China could just sweep in and say, we're going to rebuild your country. Don't worry, just give us all the mineral rights. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
This is now China number 2.
No, it's going to be China 46.
Sorry, Matt. I get my numbers confused sometimes.
Okay, I got a really good one. This is a really good one. This was posted 2 days ago. Japan to have its first aircraft carriers since World War II.
Yes. Well, they're trying to get rid of their National Defense Act, where they can only have internal army, if that makes sense. They've got a super high-tech navy that can only protect the inside of Japan. Germany's trying a similar thing. They want a larger standing army than the one they're allowed by way of the accord that came through after World War II, after the Nuremberg trials and all of that. So it seems like a lot of countries are gearing up for bigger armies.
Yeah.
I wonder, will they get it? Because Japan doesn't have its own constitution, does it? It's got the American one that they were forced to sign after they were firebombed to death, and most of their most of their country, most of their major populated cities, which are predominantly made of wood, were burnt to ashes along with the people living in them.
Interesting.
But they're back,
Interesting.
There's a lot going on in World War II that we're
How's
not allowed
about...
to
I got something... Hold on, let me add something here with this. Aircraft carrier? Here. Hey, why don't you sign more contracts with the U.S. to buy more arms? Could it be that?
That's right. Well, it'll be a combination of that as well, because then they can justify, we're going to increase taxes, take a death by 1,000 cuts taxation from people. They did that in America. They do that in Australia. I mean, the Australian, if we were to look at, raw figures, it's a joke what the Defence Force asks in terms of money compared to what they get in our product. And yet, we've just got to get those defence bills through. Just gotta, Mike.
Okay, I got a good one here. Really good one. It's been 50 years since the Apollo 8 united a fractured world. Now, there's one question I've asked, and no one could give me the right answer. And this is the question, and this is why I brought this article up. Why does the Earth look the same size as the moon when we're looking at the moon from the Earth?
Well, Mike, I mean, there's a lot of...
Did they forget to make the world a lot bigger? Because if you're standing on the moon and you're looking at the Earth, it's a gigantic, overpowering... You know what I'm trying to say?
Should be, right? Should be gigantic, because it's, margin of size far larger than the moon. But there's a lot of things I could go into with this, Mike. I mean, there's a documentary called A Funny Thing That Happened on the Way to the Moon, where they show you the outtakes of the Apollo moon landings and whatnot, where they're moving the little piece of the Earth. They've got a cutout they put in a window with a spotlight, and they're moving it around to get the silhouette just right. And, they pan out and you can see all the stage lights and all sorts of ridiculous stuff. But on top of that, what did NASA say? Oh, we recorded over the moon landing tapes, whoopsie. And then only last year they said something to the effect of, and this was the director of NASA, he said, I would go back to the moon in a nanosecond. But we had that technology destroyed, and we don't have the technology anymore to go back, but we're going to Mars. What a joke.
Yeah, but...
And then you've got Polaris, and then you've got the circle of the sun, and then you've got parallax effects, and you've got vanishing points and horizons. It's a long list of things, Mike. That's a hot topic indeed. So, you'll have to wear your tinfoil hat for that one, your Versace tinfoil suit, and your tinfoil hat.
But wasn't there someone on the board that could say and step back, hold on, guys, the Earth needs to be like 70 times bigger than what we're showing it as. So if technically, if someone was standing on the moon, the Earth should be 70 times bigger, or 30 times, whatever. It's got to be a lot bigger than it is than we're on Earth looking at the moon, and that's the mistake they made.
Well, they make a lot of mistakes with the Earth. If you look at the pictures, the official photos of the Earth throughout time, you've got the classic one you see in the textbook from the 60s. That's the one they usually use. If you see the updated 2003 one, or the Russian one that still has the mouse cursor in the picture and all the colors are wrong, because with language, Mike, you see different colors. For example, Chinese people, as I've mentioned before, Japanese as well, they can't see green. They have no chance of them seeing turquoise. It's either going to be blue or green to them. They physically can't see it because they don't have the language for it. And Russians have a lot of words for blue. So if you look at the USSR picture of the moon, it's all the land's orange and brown, and those beautiful blue waters. And then if you look slightly to the top left and zoom in on a cloud, you'll see the mouse cursor they left in the photo. It's blown up and shown in the Space Museum in St. Petersburg. You can go see an oversized version of that mouse cursor, and no one seems to see it. Quite astounding, really. And I mean, they don't have to really get it perfect, Mike, do they? Because what did Neil Armstrong say? And the other two, Buzz Aldrin and the rest, came back and they said, "Oh, I don't think we saw any stars."
Yeah, I saw that one, yeah.
And then the footprint doesn't match the, spacesuit that's in the museum, and the moon rocks are all petrified wood. It's as if they're lying, Mike. And how deep does the lie go? It's a total lie. If they can get you to believe a total lie, how poor do you become by believing a lie?
Okay.
That's the thing.
I got a really good one. You're gonna like this. This is right up your alley. Argentina. Sorry, Argentina. Oh my God, I'm so out of it. Argentina radio host ordered to have feminists on show. So you must have feminists on the show now going forward.
Do they specify the colors of hair, or do they spin a wheel for that, Mike?
Well, it says here, an Argentinian radio host accused of misogynist detributes has been ordered to host feminist guest every week for 5 months as a part of a deal with prosecutors, reporters say.
Ah, okay. So is it he must do it because of something he did before?
No, it's just saying that it's just saying he had used a program on the radio 10 to attack feminists, as feminism is destroying the world, and it's bringing a destruction to the homemaking family.
Oh, well, he's not wrong there, and that's why he got punished, isn't it, Mike?
Yeah. He needs to have a feminist on there, and a feminist is going to help him.
That's right, and then you'll need a transgendered feminist. And what other types of feminists do you need, Mike? Every flavor of degeneracy is what you need. Mm-hmm. Every single color and creed. However, not the white one. He'll get kicked off, and she'll become the host. You watch. And he'll get taxed 60% on any mortgage he takes. That's the current interest rate in Argentina, is it not, Mike? Mm-hmm. It is a funny name, though, isn't it? Argentina, land of silver, and it's very deficient in silver. So
Argentina.
Yes.
Argentina. Anyways, Justin Trudeau says people around the world extremely disturbed by detention of Canadians in China.
Oh, really?
So there's 2 Canadians being held in detention in China?
How does he know that, Mike? How does he know the thought of every person around the world? That'd be my question. That's a pretty bold statement.
So, do you think there's are we starting to see signs of China's imperial communism fracturing, and people are starting to see what China is all about when it comes to that?
Well, Chinese are very brutal to non-Chinese if they do go the belligerent route, which they usually tend to do once they've got enough power, and once they're told to do it. You see, China's not an independent entity. They're all in the Bilderberg group too. So I think they're going to create a racial divide so that people are distracted, like they always are. When all these restrictive laws go through, you get the Patriot Act through while everyone's distracted about 9/11. What else do you get? The Anti-Terror Act, 7/7. That was the one in London where Oh, yeah. And even the bucket bomb recently, they got through some restriction about transport. I can't remember exactly the law, but they used that as a justification. The underwear bomber, that was for naked body scanners with the terahertz radiation that can unzip DNA if you're constantly exposed to it. And I think it was the Indian ambassador to Australia refused to go through it. She was detained by federal police. That was 2000, what would that be? 2012, around that time anyway. You know, diplomatic community, not anymore, friend. I've got a big stick.
Yep.
And that's the reserve currency of the world, Mike. Violence. It's not gold.
With a nail at the end of it.
That's right. A board with a nail at the end of it. That's a good Simpsons episode.
Yep. With Mo. Anyways, last story. Indonesia, a tsunami that killed at least 222, hit without warning. Now, what's the deal about this article? I actually want to ask you. The government the other day is slightly hinting towards weather modification. Do you think this has to do with weather modification by the governments, or is it just the hand of God?
Some of them are. A lot of them, they prefer to manipulate a few people walking past me. But yeah, they try to manipulate the weather. Whether or not they can control the weather is another matter. They do have weather-based weapons where they can create, energy surpluses or deficits in the sky, creating either condensation or drought. Now, if you were to take an energy concentration, stick it like a little laser pointing at the center of a cyclone, you could quite literally drag it where you want. Because they need the energy, and they'll follow the energy where it goes. And once they hit the coast, they dissipate. So it would not surprise me. They might be trying to steal something off Indonesia, like they usually do. Singapore steals the sand. I mean, Mozambique, you mentioned, they get their sand stolen too. I wonder what they're trying to clear out or destroy, and then they bring in their helpers who say, we'll help you relocate. Oh, look, this island's empty. Let's stick a mine here. Yeah. What a coincidence, Nothing tends to happen by accident, Mike.
I know.
Rare.
I know. Just like my channel getting copyright strike for me talking about housing. It's kind of bizarre,
It is. But you see, Mike, you've got people talking about, with the principle in mind of we're going to try and find the truth of the matter and peel back the lies. If you do that, they're not going to like you.
Then why create these acts of treason against people? Stop doing it.
Oh, well, they're not beholden to the people, are they, Mike? We've got the elite, and then you've got you and me, in the backwater of the universe, as they sit on their clouds with their rotten hearts, minds, and souls.
Yeah.
It's not worth it, that price, Mike, the price of success, the price of fame. No price is worth the truth. The truth is the ultimate price, one way or another.
Okay, Evan, brother, thank you so much for being live with us, broadcasting. You're broadcasting. You're in Hong Kong. Hong Kong. And hopefully you'll be arriving in Japan soon, and maybe you could do a show with eBankU.
Oh, yes. Well, I mean, at the moment he's trapped forever in an IKEA. Hopefully he gets out by the end of the day. That's a little joke for him. He loves IKEA. Just ask him next time how much he loves it. You watch his face. Massive, massive smile.
Okay. All right, Evan. Thank you so much. God bless you, and have yourself a Merry Christmas.
A Merry Christmas, Mike, and a Happy New
Year. Take care, buddy.